I wasn't planning on moving back. Not to Milton Ridge, not to suburban life, not to the cul-de-sac of manicured lawns and cookie-cutter houses that all seemed to hum with the same hollow suburban quiet. But the email changed that. It came from an attorney's office in Ontario. You have inherited the property located at 26 Milton Ridge. Please contact our office within 14 days to finalize estate matters. I had to reread it twice. I didn't know anyone who left me a house. I didn't even recognize the name of the deceased, Margaret Delaney. But when I looked it up, digging through my mother's old papers and family photo albums, the name surfaced. Margaret had been my mother's aunt, a reclusive woman estranged from the family since the 1980s. Rumor had it she had gone a little off. My mother never talked about her. But there she was in a photo from 1979, standing beside my grandmother, face sharp and suspicious, even in the faded Kodak print. I was 32, recently laid off, living in a noisy Toronto apartment, drowning in student loans. So I went. The drive north to Milton Ridge was uneventful. Trees, gas stations, farmland. Then finally, the familiar beige signs pointing toward the small residential town I hadn't visited since I was 8. Milton Ridge hadn't changed. It still had that overkept feel. The air smelled of chemically treated grass, and the streets all curved like a perfectly designed circuit board. My GPS led me past a Tim Hortons, a shuttered-up flower shop, then a long stretch of modest homes that all looked vaguely identical. And then at the far end of the development, 26 Milton Ridge. The house stood out, not because it was bigger or more luxurious, but because it looked forgotten. The paint was peeling, the windows were yellowed with grime, the small porch sagged in the middle, but it was intact, just tired, like it had been waiting too long for someone to come home. I parked and stepped out. The air was too quiet, not a bird, not a breeze. The street behind me was still. I unlocked the door. It creaked open. The smell hit me first. Not rot, just something stale. Old fabric, wood, maybe something moldy in the walls. The air inside was heavier, like walking into a different time. There was a plastic-covered couch to the left, a long shag rug, a rotary phone still mounted on the wall. Nothing in the house had changed since the 1980s. I could swear I even smelled Aqua Net hairspray. The lawyer's letter said the place was mine, no strings attached. But it didn't mention the basement, or what was beneath it. That came later. I settled in with a borrowed air mattress and a box of cleaning supplies. My phone barely worked, the Wi-Fi was dead, and every time I flicked a light switch, something buzzed or flickered. But it was quiet, too quiet. The first night, I couldn't sleep. I kept hearing what I thought were creaks, wood settling maybe, but they didn't stop. They came in patterns. Long stretches of silence, then 4 slow steps, pause, then again. I got up twice, thinking it was someone outside. No one. The house was surrounded by hedges, thick ones, no fences. The neighbors hadn't so much as peeked through their blinds. On the 3rd day, I explored the basement. The door to it had been painted shut. That was strange. The paint layered thick over the latch, like someone had purposely sealed it off. I used a putty knife to chip it away, and after 5 minutes of effort, the door groaned open. A cold draft hit me. The basement stairs were narrow and steep, with a wood railing on only one side. I turned on my phone flashlight and descended slowly, each step sending out a hollow echo. The room was empty, mostly. Just a washer, a dryer, and stacks of boxes covered in dust and cobwebs. But one thing stood out, a door, in the far right corner of the basement. Smaller than a normal door, almost like a crawl space access, but not metal, wood with a black iron handle and 4 vertical slits carved into the surface. The kind you'd see in some ancient pantry. It was locked. No key, no hinges on my side. I tugged gently. It wouldn't budge. The door wasn't on any of the blueprints I'd found in the kitchen drawer. No renovations were recorded in the municipal office. It shouldn't be there. But it was. That night, I dreamed of the sound again. 4 steps. Pause. 4 steps. And something scratching faintly. Not wood on wood. Something sharper. Like fingernails across concrete. The next morning, I visited the neighbors, just to ask questions. The woman next door, an older lady with graying hair and careful eyes, opened the door only a crack when I rang. When I told her who I was, she froze. Then she whispered, "You're staying in Margaret's house?" I nodded. "I inherited it, just arrived this week. Do you know anything about the basement?" She paled, then slowly said, I remember when they boarded it up. It was after her nephew came to visit. He was different when he left. I frowned. Boarded it up? She nodded. They had it sealed after he ran away in the middle of the night. What happened to him? She looked over her shoulder, as if afraid someone was listening. No one ever heard from him again. I left with more questions than answers. That night, I sat in the living room with my laptop, trying to find anything about Margaret Delaney. Nothing. No obituaries, no social media, not even an employment record. It was like she didn't exist outside of that house. Then I checked the town's archived newspapers, and there, on page 7 of a 1989 issue, I found it. Teen disappears after visiting aunt in Milton Ridge. No photos, just a paragraph. Daniel L. 17 was last seen leaving the residence of Margaret D. on Milton Ridge on September 14th. Neighbors report hearing loud noises from the basement the night prior. The residence is now under investigation. There was no follow-up article, no suspect, no resolution, just silence. The basement door haunted me. Every time I passed by the stairs, I felt it like a presence, like something behind it was waiting. I would stand at the top step and feel the air shift slightly. Not wind, just temperature, like cold breath through cracks in the wall. I started hearing knocking, always late, always faint. At first I thought it was the plumbing, or maybe old pipes shifting in the walls. But then it started happening at the same time. 2:47 a.m., exactly, 3 knocks, then silence, every single night. By the 6th day, I couldn't take it anymore. I returned to the basement with a crowbar. I was going to open that door. I didn't open the book again. I tried burning it, twice. Once in a barrel in the alley behind my building, and once in a fireplace at a friend's cabin in Montana. Both times it wouldn't catch. The flames danced around it like it was immune. No, like it was watching me through the fire. The pages didn't even curl. I tossed it into a lake. 2 days later, it was sitting on my kitchen counter, slightly damp, open to a new page. This time it said, "The mouth knows your name." I've started noticing things. At first, it was the reflection in the window, not mine. Something just behind me. A face without lips, the outline of sewn flesh. Then it was the dreams, always the same one. I'm back in the buried room. The girl in white stands over me, the mouth yawning open in the wall behind her. But now, it isn't a wall, it's a mirror. And inside the mirror is me, standing in her place, stitched lips, hollow eyes, whispering Latin into a book I didn't write. Then the knocking started. It happens every night at 3:33 a.m. 3 knocks on the wall, always the same rhythm. Not hard, not demanding, just patient, hungry. I checked with my downstairs neighbor. No one lives there. The unit's been empty since the building opened. Maintenance said it's never been leased. But I hear breathing through the floorboards, and sometimes murmurs, like children whispering prayers. I started keeping a journal, documenting the occurrences, writing down everything from the dreams to the new phrases that keep appearing in the book. A few days ago, a new page turned by itself. It read, "The stitched are returning. They never stopped. You delayed the mouth. You didn't silence it." There was a symbol beneath the words, a spiral cross. Except this time, it was upside down, bleeding from the center. That same night, I found a needle and thread lying on my pillow, and a tiny bloody X etched into my upper lip. I didn't do it. Last week, I drove back to the site of the house. I needed to know, was it really gone? It wasn't. Or rather, it was, but something else had grown there. A new house, completely different style, modern, well-lit, too clean. A real estate sign out front said, "Open house this weekend. Come see what's inside." The agency listed was Hollow Cross Realty. I drove away. I didn't look back. But I can feel it now. Something has changed in me. My dreams aren't dreams anymore. My body doesn't feel like mine some days. Sometimes I wake up standing or find symbols scratched into the inside of my arms. Sometimes I speak in my sleep, Latin phrases I never learned. And once I caught myself standing in front of the mirror, holding a needle, mouthing the words, "We are the door and we never close." I don't know how much longer I have. I've started seeing people with that same look I saw in the girl's stitched eyes. On the subway, at work, in the background of TikTok videos. It's spreading. Not like a cult, like a disease or an awakening. If you're reading this and you've seen the book, if you've heard knocking at night, if you've woken with a thread across your lips, don't open the door. Don't answer the whispers. Don't read past the last page, because the mouth is patient, and the stitched are always listening.